How much would you say you pay for your kids' college tuition? Tens of thousands of dollars a year, right? Well, some of that includes living arrangements. Most parents also visit the schools with their kids to scope out dorms or on-campus housing that is reassuringly clean before the school year starts. This is likely your kid's first time living on their own, so you'd assume that there's some sort of supervision in living conditions. Well, turns out these colleges are taking your money, providing almost no supervision, and in many cases won't even respond to parents' or students' pleas to address sometimes dangerously unhealthy living conditions. Due in part to your kids being slobs, to be blunt. But here's what happened to one college student at the University of North Carolina. This is crazy. This is in UNC Wilmington. They received at least $3 million from the state just in 2022. Also, over $8 million from the federal government. Plus, in 2023, they got $198 million from the North Carolina General Assembly. That one student wanted to get out of her sorority housing because of the moldy mess caused by her sorority sisters at Alpha Phi. Now, most of the Greek life housing at UNC is owned by the university, and then it's leased to the sororities and then rented out to the students individually. When she went to them with evidence of the horrific living conditions, school administrators just pointed to the lease agreement between her and the sorority, threw up their hands and refused to help. So the school would not let her out of the lease. The sorority wouldn't let her out of the lease. The facilities manager walked in and couldn't even fix the sink that wouldn't drain because it was so full of dirty dishes and other junk, and yet she was still being forced to live there. But get this, the sorority had already let out 2 other girls out of their lease recently, but they didn't want to continue sharing the financial burden of letting another person out. As the students' parents made dozens of calls begging for help from 600 miles away, the school kept citing the lease agreement and completely missed the fact that this place had become a health risk. Now, most recently, we understand the situation has been rectified, but it took dozens of hours of a concerned parent screaming at a dozen more people, most of which had doctorate in front of their email signature, which meant nothing. When we reached out to the school for comment, they said, "We are aware of a concern regarding a student housing unit in the Greek village. University staff have already addressed the issue to the satisfaction of the student and her family earlier this week," which is good. The university takes pride in providing quality learning and living facilities for students. The unit in question was inspected earlier this week, and it was found to be clean with all utilities functioning properly. Yeah, I bet it is now after we reached out for comment. But after how many complaints and a destroyed relationship between a student and their sorority? This sounds nice, but it took weeks of the parent and the student arguing with the school, which at every level completely absolved itself of any involvement in the matter. So we also have a source that was in the unit today that went in there and said, assuredly, it smells like mold. So much for clean. Now, keep in mind, some of these administrators earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And sure, they finally resolved this one, but here's something even crazier. When we spoke to the student, when she spoke to the head of the sorority after this whole thing was wrapped up, she was told to give back her sorority sweatshirts and swag and merchandise that she already paid for. Everybody involved in this seemed more interested in not solving the problem than they were in the health and safety of students. So if you have kids, especially at UNC Wilmington, I would check their dorms and their lease agreements. But this is not an isolated incident. Most kids are slobs. I know, I was one. And in other cases, on-campus housing is not adequately maintained, even at the request of students and angry parents. Actually, 75% of Ivy League schools have mold on campus. There's also nearly 300 cases of mold in schools nationwide that we know about. Colleges in 42 of 50 states have mold. I'm not talking about small, subtle cases here. There are literally Instagram pages dedicated to finding mold across universities. In fact, there's a guy, you're going to hear from in a minute, who compiled a list of schools with serious cases of mold that your children are being forced to live with. In fact, there's roughly 270 schools that we're scrolling right now on this list, and most of these schools won't even take a phone call from the parent because the administrator's considering the kid living on campus to be the only worthy point of contact because they're an adult. So much talking about all the student loan process and how expensive colleges are. Kids and parents are mortgaging their future for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and these colleges are forcing kids to live in third world conditions. The University of North Carolina, Wilmington was just how we found out about this. If you've got kids in these colleges, start making some calls.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.